Welcome back to the channel. This is my Fender Telecaster. It's a vintage reissue of a Blackguard Telecaster from the 50s, and I've never got on with this guitar. I have never gelled with it in any way. So let me explain to you why I've made this video today. So I've had the guitar now for 2 years, and during that time I've gigged with it seldomly. I've rehearsed with it at band practice on occasions. It's appeared on the channel once or twice, if that, but I've barely used it. The guitars that I normally tend to use is the Black Strat, the Les Paul Junior, the Les Paul Gold Top, and they are incredible guitars. But coming back to the Telecaster, I do love the sound of it. And I love the way it looks, and I love the history of these guitars. Yes, I would love an original 1950s Blackguard Telecaster, but that would cost me a fortune. And the nearest thing I could get to it is this 2000 year model of a Blackguard Telecaster. But I've had problems with this guitar in terms of bonding with it. So the main problems with this guitar is the playability for me. It's not the tone. As you can hear, the tone is pretty good, really. And it does sound great. That's the neck pickup. And a lot of people say that these sound very dark and it's unmanageable in terms of its tone. And I would disagree. This is still on its vintage wiring. And I have to say the tone is very, very good. Bridge pickup. I naturally have to back off the tone pot because it's just a little bit too harsh. And the middle section sounds equally just as nice. So the sound of the guitar was never an issue, but it was the way the guitar played in terms of the action. And one of the key problems I had was the action was quite high. I was tripping over the strings. I was string bending, and I'd find as I'm bending the string up, my fingers would slide underneath the string above it, making it uncomfortable to play and make all kinds of noises. And it wasn't what I wanted. And what I wanted from this guitar was almost the playability and action of my Black Strat. Now, there are one or two key differences between this guitar and the Telecaster, albeit they're both from the 50s, they're both vintage reissues, and I absolutely love this. This is the most gigged guitar that I've actually got. But the only difference is that this has got a 9.5 inch radius fretboard on it, whereas the Fender Telecaster's got a 7.25. And it's much easier, for some reason, to string bend as well. And I don't know why that is. I really don't know. It seems like I always have a bit more of a fight on my hands with the Telecaster than I do with the Strats. And I even have less of a fight on my hands with the Gibson Les Paul Junior Custom Shop. So let's go back to the Telecaster. So this was worrying me a little bit in the fact that the Telecaster, it's a great guitar, and I've just not got on with it at all. I really haven't. And a lot of it is to do with the action. So I thought I needed to really sort of nail this somehow. But I also found there's a second problem with it, and that was to do with the string tension. All my Fender guitars are using the same gauge strings. I'm using Fender pure nickel strings at the minute, and I think they feel really nice to play, particularly on my Strats, but not on this because there's too much tension there. The slinkiness of the strings has disappeared when I put those strings on the Telecaster. So I was having a little bit of a dilemma, particularly if I'm trying to do my string bending, which I do like to do, particularly on the B and the E strings. I'll just sort of demonstrate. And I've got more of a fight on my hands than I have than I do on my other guitars, and this has worried me a little bit because what I wanted was, if I'm in a gig environment and I'm playing the Black Strats, or even more so a Gibson, and I picked up the Telecaster, I wanted it to feel not exactly the same, but somewhere near, and that was my problem. Right, so it is a great guitar, it looks great, it feels great, it's a nice weight to it, it sounds fantastic, and the first job was to sort out the action, and that is where I came across the first problem with this guitar. And the first problem is that it's a 7¼ inch fretboard, and what I did was I got a ruler and I measured on the ruler to the bottom of each string, going around the fretboard at the 21st fret, that the bottom of each strings were roughly about 2mm above the fret wire, and I did that on 5 strings. And I got to like doing the 6th string, which is this bottom E here. And I thought, why isn't that string reducing in height when I'm unscrewing the grub screw here? And the problem was with the brass saddle here, and with that grub screw there, as that grub screw comes out, naturally the saddle wants to drop. And I didn't realise it at the time, but what was happening is the bottom of the brass saddle was resting on top of a round-headed screw, which fixes the bridge, the ashtray bridge, if you will, to the body of the guitar. And I thought, oh no, that's a nightmare. I've just got the action right on the other 5 strings, and I can't get anywhere near with the 6th string, being this fat E here. And I thought, how do I sort that out? I went onto internet forums, Telecaster talk groups, and I thought, I'm going to have to sort this out, otherwise I'm going to have to get rid of the guitar. So that brought me on to reading up about various sort of people saying, right, okay, you can bring your saddles down, but the grub screws will come up, which means they'll hit the palm of your hand while you're playing, which makes it very uncomfortable. People have used hacksaws on these things beneath the grub screw to reduce the height, so when you've got the saddles in the right place, you don't suffer the discomfort of a protruding screw, which basically sort of digs into your hand while you're playing. But that wasn't my problem. My problem was I could not get that saddle low enough because of the round-headed screw, which mounts the bridge to the body of the guitar. And I read further on the forums that people had actually taken the necks off these guitars, which is the 4 screws there, the 4 wood screws. And what they've done is they've then placed a shim. Now, it doesn't really matter what it's made of, but people have used metal, they've used plastic, they've used cardboard, and I thought, just as an experiment, I'll do what they've sort of suggested. Now, between these 2 screws here at the back of the neck, I've put a very thin shim of cardboard, which has basically canted the neck that way ever so slightly. Put the wood screws in, put the strings back on, brought it up to tension on the tuner, and I thought, wow, I've got the world's most ridiculous low action guitar now. And I thought, right, I've done it too much. But the good thing is that mod it's actually completely reversible. Now that led me to the next part in raising the action to suit the actual neck, which was now which had a shim in it. So again, I've got my ruler back out, and I'll show you some photographs on the screen to do with how I use the ruler. I've marked it in a particular way so it's highly visible where the 2mm mark is on it. And I've brought each saddle up on the guitar, again, to replicate around the radius of the guitar, 2mm to the bottom of each string from the top of each fret wire on the 21st fret. And I have to say, I think I've nearly sort of nailed this guitar. It has transformed the guitar immensely. I've gone from a guitar that was almost impossible to play due to a really high action, was tripping over strings, falling over them. I do like string bending, so I don't like a guitar with a ridiculously small action. I do like a little bit of a fight from it. And as you can see, and all over the fretboard, I've got nice tone. I've got lovely playability now, and I've got no fret buzz, and it's very, very comfortable. And I thought, I've hit a bit of a milestone here. And the other benefit is that now all these saddles are at the right height, the grub screws aren't protruding in any way to make the playability of the guitar uncomfortable by striking my hand across the exposed grub screws. And the other good thing is I've not had to hack these down in any way or grind them to length if they were too long and protruding too much. I've not had to do anything with the round-headed screw, which prevented the saddle from going to the correct height that I wanted it to be at. So everything that I've done to this guitar at the minute is completely reversible. Now, the only other thing I have done when I've had the neck off was, prior to that, I checked the neck relief. And most people are saying you should have like a 20,000th of an inch, 20 thou if you will, which is exactly 0.5 millimeter. Around about the 7th fret, when you press the strings down between the 1st fret and the 21st fret, I've now adjusted the neck relief to reflect the black strat, the blue strat, and anything Fenderish. I have to say, these mods very simply have transformed this guitar, and I've sort of begged the question why I didn't do this 2 years ago. I really don't know why. I did not do this 2 years ago. So I now have a Telecaster, which I think is one of the finest guitars in terms of action and playability that I have in my collection. So is it going to stay in my collection? Well, to be honest, it still needs a bit of work. I've still got it doesn't feel as slinky as my Fenders. There's still a massive amount of tension there compared to my other guitars. And I don't know why. So I reached out to Eddie Tatton, who's got a great Instagram page. He's a professional musician, and his page basically features a lot of topics about Blackguard Telecasters, 50s gold tops, and those are my kind of things. So when Eddie posted a feature on his Blackguard Telecaster, as an original 50s, I think it might have been a 52, I think it might have been, I asked him, I said, how do you get around the string tension? And he replied back, and he basically said, it's something that you really have to live with. And I thought, right, okay, so it's one of the quirks of the actual guitar. It's one of the unique features of a reissue of an original Blackguard Telecaster. So it may be something that I have to live with. So that is where we are, guys. I think, to be honest, the guitar is becoming a keeper. If you pop over to my Instagram page at Gigs and Guitars UK, you'll find photographs of all the tones and the pedals that I've used in making this video, so pop over there and have a look. Equally, look at Eddie Tatton's guitar page on Instagram as well. That's a great wealth of information on these types of guitars, and indeed gold tops and old Fenders and stuff, and that's worth having a look at. And equally, look out for Naked Guitar, Tones of a Telecaster. That will be out there in the next week or two, and that's 10 minutes of me playing this guitar with its new action, with with a punch up I'm having with a string tension. So it's 10 minutes of improvisation where you'll hopefully see some good inspirational stuff, but equally I've got a bit of a fight on my hands with this string tension. And that's it for now. Like, subscribe, you know where we are. Ta-da!